Okay, so today for this how-to video, we'll be doing crayon melted art. What we're going to be doing is glue gunning the crayons to the canvas and then heating the crayons up to come a cool kind of rainbow painting. So what you will need is a glue gun, some glue sticks for the glue gun, a hairdryer, a box of crayons. I chose to get a 96 box of crayons because what you will be doing in the end is taking out all the browns and blacks and kind of dull colors. It's all about the bright colors. And a canvas to glue gun. So what we will get started with is the sorting of the crayons. So what we will be doing is taking out all the dull colors, so browns, any kind of white or black, the neutral tones. Alright, so what we have done here is that we've sorted through the crayons, taken out all the dull colors, and placed the bright colors in a way that we think will be best to create a rainbow effect on the canvas. After we glue each one down, we will blow dry them and create the effect that we are looking for. What this particular assignment is for is that it will be creating the background to our conceptual assignment that we have to do with our still life project. What I will be doing is then, after I glue and let this dry, photograph that, as well as photograph different paint canisters, and then in Photoshop we will be putting them together and sort of wrapping the crayon look around the blank canisters. So now I will start to glue the crayons down. Ready? Seems to be okay. Now it doesn't really matter which side you start with. Preferably keep the Crayola sign up so that everything looks similar. Always remember to be careful when glue gunning. Get your fingers all in a mess. Okay, so once we have everything glued on to the canvas, as you can see, nothing falls off or moves, we will begin blow drying the canvas. So this takes about a while to get the certain effect that you want to get, so you kind of have to just see as you go. So as you can see, it does take a while, but that is starting. So you have to be patient with it, but we'll be back in a little bit. Okay, so as you can see, the crayons have started to melt. It's about 10-15 minutes into the process. What we're finding so far is that the pinks and maybe the oranges are the hardest ones, taking the longest to melt. Blues and greens are easiest. So if you want that effect with the reds and the purples, spend a little bit more time on that. And for it to continue to reach the bottom, you just continue to keep blow drying the actual paint that drips. So I'm going to keep doing this, and you can see. Okay, so as we saw from the last one, we've made quite a bit of progress with the colors, and I know in different situations you might want to have more of a straight line coming down, but I think this is pretty cool. I think that the more we go, I think the thicker that the crayon will get. It's been about, I'd say, half an hour to close to 40 minutes now with the crayons. And then you can just keep going as you go along. Make sure, a big tip is make sure that you have something to put down, whether it be newspaper or a drop sheet, because it does get messy. As you can see on the background, there was a little bit of crayon spray, but if you're photographing something, you can always take it out of Photoshop. It's not a problem. So I'm going to keep going and then hopefully be back with a final product. Okay, so that took about an hour and a half to get that desired effect. Now, I chose to stop there. You can always keep going. It's your preference. The great thing about this project is that you can go back and take the hairdryer to it at any point that you want and fix it and make it better. I've also brought over one of the paint cans that I have chosen to shoot. There will be that one and two smaller ones. So I'm going to go ahead and shoot these two different elements of the assignment, and then we'll be back and I will show you how to put it into Photoshop. Okay, so now that we've shot the crayon art and the paint can separately, we're going to put them together in Photoshop. This is an example of the still life composite that I've put together. It was just a quick one to show what we will be aiming for in the through the Photoshop video. So we come in here. Okay. So the first thing you want to do is edit the two separate files the way you want them. I fixed up the background a little bit in this and did more of a contrasty sort of thing. So what we're going to do first off is we're going to go to the image adjustments, and we're going to put it into black and white. So we're actually going to do, let's flatten this image first so we can work with it like that. And again, image adjustments, black and white. What we're going to do is create a grayscale image that will be the map for the distortion of the paint. So play around with this a little bit. You can do more contrasty, more brighter. Okay. We're going to save that as a displacement map. You're going to change it to a Photoshop file and save it on the desktop. Okay, so after you save your displacement map to your desktop, you're then going to open up the original file and you're going to start warping your top layer around it. So bring in your paint, in this case the paint, or your top layer. Command T to transform. Hold the shift button so that it stays the same proportions, and bring it into whichever size you prefer. It's a lot easier if you work with a a lighter opacity. That way you can actually see what you're doing. Once you think that's an okay size, you just hit enter, return, or the check mark, and that will set the layer in place. Then you're going to go to filter, distort, and displace. Click on displace. Now you can either do a 10 to 12 or 10 to 11 ratio. I chose to do 10 to 12 to start off with. And then you're going to hit wrap around and OK. It's then going to ask for your displacement map, so click your displacement map that you just created and open. So as you can see, it's starting to warp around the paint or the paint cans. You can do this as many times as you like, so we can go again, distort, displace, okay, pick your displacement map and open. And it'll make slight changes. Now you can do a number of different ways of wrapping or warping the paints around. We're just going to bring the opacity down just a little bit more. As you can see now, it's starting to take shape around the paint edges. You can either go to Edit, Transform, and Warp is a really good tool. And this takes a little bit of patience, so just take your time with it. Bring it in the way that you choose. And the great thing about working in layers is that you can always go back and fix it up, do it again, whichever you choose. So once we played around with the warping a little bit more, we were happy with the process so far. We then went around and took the pen tool, which is in the left hand tool bar over here, right on top of the text tool, and went around and traced exactly the width the photo is. What we're then going to do in the paths window is take the work path that we created and bring it just down, hold and click, and bring it down to the third button. So hold, click, and drop, and that creates the marching ants around the selection. We're then going to go back over to our layers and create a layer mask for that, and then that cuts off the excess areas which we don't want in the photo. Now what we can do is activate the mask, and to make any kind of touch-ups, just go in with a paintbrush and just bring that over a little bit. Maybe a hard edge would be better for this, and just sort of round that up to the best of your ability. Bring this one down a little bit too. So after you are happy with your selection, you just go into your layers palette and your blending options, and from there you can choose a numerous different kinds of blending styles and blending options. You can do inner shadow, outer glow, inner glow, and you can play around with it. And then you just click OK, and the last step is to save it. You can save it as a TIFF, which is an uncompressed file, or a JPEG, or an any file which you prefer. So from the beginning to end, we have seen the crayons being shot. Then I went to shoot the paint cans, and we brought them both together in Photoshop and created this still life composite where the image becomes one. I hope this tutorial was helpful and that you are able to be successful in the projects you do. Thanks for listening.